Welcome in to the Arkansas Sports Network's Hometown Sports Football Preview, proudly presented by Arkansas Tech University, D3 Auto Sales, and by Metcalf Trucking Company. Today we sit down with Pottsville Apache head coach Brian Rust. This Pigskin Preview is brought to you by Heirloom Legal Services.
Welcome back into the Hometown Sports Arkansas Football Preview presented by the Arkansas Sports Network. Got Coach Brian Rust from Pottsville here, and we're talking a little bit of Pottsville Apache football. Coach Rust, glad to have you along here.
Appreciate you.
Well, man, last year you guys ended up in a weird predicament, one that you haven't seen too much. I would say that the conference played out real similar to that as it did in 2022 as well. Unfortunately for y'all, well, really in 2 years, y'all really kind of ended up on the bad side of the tie breaks and all that. And the crazy thing about last year was you were within 5 yards of beating CAC. If you win that ball game, you win the conference. You finish 5-3 in the conference and somehow miss the playoffs.
Yeah, it was a very interesting year, and really back-to-back years. The conference, was really, really good. I mean, we going into the conference, everybody kind of thought, man, that's really a weak conference. And, what they didn't realize, I think, was at the time that we formed, everybody was up. We athlete-wise, just across the conference, really loaded. With Division I guys, especially at the 4A level, you don't see a whole lot of Division I guys, and there were, over the last 2 years, 3 or 4 different Division I guys in the conference, and skill guys especially, you don't see that. Sometimes you'll see a lineman that level, but the conference was really tough, and the year before, we finished second, and kind of got knocked down to that 4 seed, had to go to Malvern. Of course, Malvern won the state championship. And, then last year, we're kind of rolling along, and I felt like we, playing really, really good football. Injury bug kind of got us, in that CAC game. We wound up, actually in the box out game, I felt like probably our best game of the year. We came out and really played well against those guys on the road, and, but it came at a cost. We wound up, losing big guy McNeely, and Bo Day had really hurt his shoulder, and Caleb Stansel, our other linebacker, was banged up, and so going in the CAC game, we just didn't have, and really, Landon was our vocal leader out there on the field, and kind of had been the whole year, and and even with that, our kids played their hearts out and had chances to kind of win the game. And you're right, we win that game, and we're sitting there, we're the 1 seed, and there's no doubt, and so, you lose that game by 1 point, and then you kind of roll on. We kind of had a 3-game losing streak there, and, just had every opportunity, but didn't get it done. And, so we're sitting there. I think we wound up tied. There was a 2-way tie for first, and then like a 4-way tie, I guess, for second. Mm-hmm. And and we're sitting there, after that Dover game. And what was kind of strange about it is we didn't have a Week 10 game, and so we had kind of already finished up, and with a week to go, and we're sitting there looking like, hey, everything looks really good, and then kind of slowly as the game started going, Harmony Grove played Bauxite on Thursday, and we're watching that game, and it's, Harmony Grove, big rivalry game. Harmony Grove's got the lead going in late, and we had just the previous year watched that same game, mm-hmm. and it messed us up the other way. Yeah. Bauxite wound up beating Harmony Grove last year, and Harmony Grove was the conference champion. If that had happened, we would have been the 2 seed. Well, this year it's the opposite. Harmony Grove's kind of, the lower, they're not making the playoffs, and and they're playing box out like crazy. You have the lead, then all of a sudden box out pulls away and wins that game, and so it kind of messed us up and started knocking us out. And then every game Friday night, we're sitting there even late. Hall was beating Mayflower, which would put us back in that, I think, the 3 seed or something like that. And Hall's kind of leading all the way through. Then all of a sudden, right at the end, Mayflower comes back and beats them. It was pretty painful, to be honest with you, especially, the strangest feeling, you finish that last week at Dover, really not knowing what you're going to do, where you're going to be. But, we really anticipated, I thought we'd still get there. And then as it slowly, goes away, you don't get to have that end of the year talk. And so then after that, we kind of had a meeting at the end of the year, and just very strange season. And, and really with tiebreakers and all that kind of stuff with what we had done, on paper, you say, man, we should be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's teams in the state that didn't even come close to what we had accomplished. And, they're in the playoffs, and we're sitting there outside looking in. And, really, we lost to CAC by 1, beat the heck out of Bauxite and Mayflower, and they were the 2 and 3 seed, and so it's like, it just doesn't make sense. But then you lose some of those other ones, and, so it's strange how it worked out. But it was still a good year. I felt like we played really, really good football all the entire year, and I felt like even when we had that 3-game losing streak, I thought we played our hearts out. We just didn't have the depth. We didn't have the bodies to put out there, and in those situations.
You're talking about 3-game losing streak, CAC, Lamar, and Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that in 2 of the games, CAC and Clinton, you guys were making a play in the fourth quarter to possibly win those games. The Lamar game was close till it got away from you at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that was a weird scenario, to say the least. Say the least.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're going to go into a new conference. We'll talk about that in just a minute. A new old conference.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about your assistant coaches. I don't think the assistant coaches get enough run.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about your guys and who helps you out on Friday night.
Well, we've I've been here 17 years now, and kind of kept our staff pretty well together. But my offense coordinator, Greg Jones, been with me for quite a while, several years now, and I think more like 15 or something like that, and does a good job offensively. Greg Kaufman is my defensive coordinator. He's been with me since my days in Hector, so he's been with me for 20 plus years. So that's kind of the OCDC. Josh Falls, who's actually getting out this year, he's going to be an assistant principal, but he was my quarterback whenever I first came over to Pottsville. He's been the head junior high coach and the quarterbacks coach for me. Then we've got Tyler Waddell, or I'll go ahead and go with Coach Duggar, Jordan Duggar. He was my center, my first few years whenever I came over. He's kind of come back to the program. He was at Russell for a couple of years, and then came over here. He does O-line. He's going to be the new head junior high coach. Tyler Waddell, who played guard and some outside linebacker for me during those same years with with Coach Duggar and some of those other guys. He came back, and he was at Two Rivers and then at Atkins, and then he came over 2 years ago. He does outside linebackers. He's our head 7th grade coach, and he helps Coach Duggar with O-line work. Then of course, a guy that we don't mention enough is Coach Andy Chapa, and Coach Chapa was a special ed teacher here for 30-something years, and he takes care of all our water management stuff. He helps with 7th grade. He does D-line 7th grade, helps with junior high, senior high. He may be the most irreplaceable guy we have on staff. Another guy we just hired is our head baseball, and he's going to help out offensively and probably be our head 7th grade coach this year, Matt Sandifer. He's coming from Center Point, was at Mena, been a couple places. We're really excited about getting him down here. He's got a vast knowledge of baseball and football. Kind of done both things for several years. And with our staff, a lot of other 4A schools have more coaches, and they kind of split their staff, stuff like that. And I always felt like it was special with our staff to, we do it all. I mean, from 7th grade through high school, we all watch film together. We try to get game plans together and situate everything together. And like I said, we're involved with all of it.
You have several returning players for this year from a team that was very competitive last year in the conference. Talk about some of your returners.
I think just across the board, we've got several 3-year starters. Returning guys like Trip Price. Him and Tate Cobb kind of. Were half and half at the fullback position last year. Tripp kind of came in as a starter, and both of them played D-line, but they both return and gonna really expect big things from them on both sides of the ball. We've got, of course, Landon McNeely. He's been a outside. We're going to try him at outside linebacker a little bit this year, but he played D-line, tight end. He's our big guy out there. We tried to get him in situations where he gets the ball against those little fellas and make them try to tackle him. He got great hands. Let's see, starter-wise, Matthew Loveland, who hadn't been able to go through spring this year with an injury, but he returns at left tackle, and we may move him inside. We're not really sure yet. He returns there. Another kid offensively, Connor Mitchell, was another starter. He started at right tackle for us last year. He returns as a junior this year, and he's looking pretty good. Then, of course, kind of look at our skill guys, and Colby Stevenson, a guy that, whenever you turn on film, you can see he's got ability. And really, we tried to mold him into a running back. We felt like he was going to be that kind of guy. And really, we've kind of figured out over the course of the season last year, doesn't fit that mold real well. And he's more of a slot guy, more of a slot receiver. And you put him in space, and, man, he is dynamic. So we're going to do more of that and continue to do that. And with him, then, of course, our quarterback, and a lot of people – I think knew, especially Miller Mahan, in junior high was kind of that guy that, I think everybody saw how good he could be. Then he lost, had the knee injury and was out basically his entire sophomore year. And mentally, I think it kind of took a toll on him throughout that season. So last year, just him being back out there, I think it took him 2 or 3 games, especially whenever we opened up against Elkins last year, who was just unbelievable. So that was his first experience in senior high football. So Miller came out and really did great, and just got better as the season went on. I think towards the end of the year, especially like the box out game and some of those games, he really just was unstoppable. To be honest with you. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that people, really statewide don't know about. But I think this year he's gonna really do some things that people are gonna be like, wow, and I do that every day in practice with him. Defensive side of the ball, of course, most of those guys I mentioned also help us defensively. One guy that returns who was really, as a sophomore, really unbelievable. He had a great sophomore year at linebacker, Caleb Stansel. He returns, and he's probably going to help us on both sides of the ball. So those are our returners, and we've got Caleb Turek defensively. He played outside linebacker. He's kind of always been our Swiss Army knife, I guess. He's a guy that when we started, he was kind of a secondary guy. Last year we didn't have anybody outside linebacker. We were searching for people, and Caleb, body-wise, is probably not an outside linebacker. He's not real heavy, not real tall. Just kind of that guy. But he knows how to play the game, and he makes plays. So this year, I think we have the ability. We're going to be able to move him back to the secondary, which is really his natural position. but he did a great job for us last year as outside linebacker. And the other outside linebacker, Sladen Graham, who's been out all spring with knee injury from wrestling. We're want to get him back as quick as we can. He kind of had a great year at outside backer. So we've got several returners around the field. We're just going to keep on. They're a lot of them again have 3 years. Going on their third year of experience, so they know how the game goes. And we've got a talented group of ninth graders moving up to be sophomores, and another guy that really didn't get a whole lot of PT defensively. He was out there a lot, so I guess I could say he was kind of the returning starter too. But Kagan Jones, and he's been hurt this spring, so we're excited to see what he's going to do. He's going to do more things for us offensively this year than he was able to last year. We're going to expect big things from him also.
Any of those guys returning All-State players?
The only guy is Miller. Miller Mahan was a All-State honorable mention. He got in the conversation. So
All conference.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Several of them were all conference.
And I will throw in Miller Mahan is one of those guys. We were going to get to surprises.
Yeah.
He's not a surprise to you,
right.
But I will say I feel like he'll be one of the top quarterbacks in 4A for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and again, and everybody, especially, if you know him, he's a very likable kid. He's a kid that, I really think last year he just, especially going into it, he didn't get to play a whole year, and this kid absolutely loves playing the game. I mean, and so anybody who doesn't play sports, hadn't been around it, I was fortunate enough to really play my whole career, and I never had to sit out. Yeah. Even I think I had to sit out one game my entire career, and so you just don't understand how bad that makes you feel, and to battle through that his sophomore year, because he would have stepped in as a sophomore and been the starter immediately. Obviously he was that kind of good of a player, and so him having to sit out that year, I think, is made him better, but it was tough to go through mentally. And I think last year kind of, you saw some things from him and more things. And this year I just feel like he has a lot better grasp, and we're able to do so many more things now than we were last year when we started, because it was like his sophomore year. It was like his first year ever last year in high school football. So this year we feel like we can do way more things because he can manage all of it.
Let's talk about conference. We've talked about what it was like last year. You lose in CAC, you lose in Bauxite, you gain Ozark, you gain Dardanelle. Those two teams are real kind of dyed-in-the-wool type rivals, especially the Dardanelle team.
Right.
Of course, Ozark, I feel like everybody wants to beat Ozark in anything that they do.
Sure.
And so you're kind of returning back to that old conference, but I don't know that it's going to get any easier for you.
No, it's kind of weird because, it's kind of the same way. You look at, last year's conference and the thing I just immediately think of in my mind is, okay, we were really, really athletic. I mean, just conference-wise. I mean, every time you put on film, you're like, dang, that guy can run. Dang, we got to make sure we can contain him. And I don't know if it's going to be that kind of conference. I think we're going to get on film and we're going to be like, man, those guys are physical.
Yeah.
Where it's going to be a physical run matchup every week. You look at it, and like I said, you obviously Ozark Dardanelle, who whenever we were in it before, have been kind of the conference champions and kind of back and forth between those two guys. They've got some dynamic athletes for sure. And like I said, we've seen Dardanelle, Ozark, I'm sure they've always got, dynamic athletes, but they're physical run teams. They want to run the ball, even though they're spread, they're a run heavy team on both those ends. Well, then you look at Lamar, and Lamar's, going to be as talented as anybody, and they're going to be a run power type football team. Clinton, obviously, they're going to be wing T, and they're going to come at you, and they're going to just try to run it at you. So it's a different kind of good. It's a different kind of good, and something we've got to be prepared for. And in years past, I feel like we were equipped to handle that. We had some bigger guys up front and stuff like that. this year, we're not real big. We're not, if there's a question mark on our team, I feel like our O-line, D-line is that question mark. And like I said, and the only reason I say it because I feel like we've got 3 of the best defensive line we've had, but we've kind of had to move those guys out to different places. Trip Price is really the only one that I feel like is, kind of returning this for sure going to be on D-line. Mm-hmm. We do have some bigger guys, so we're kind of planning for that, in the physical and the run-heavy offense that we're going to see. We're kind of preparing for that now by moving those guys outside, getting a little bit bigger bodies, on the outside linebackers, and then putting some bigger bodies inside.
Talk about your non-conference schedule.
Right now, we got Heber, Charleston, and Clarksville. And again, we kind of looked at Heber. They're kind of a flex bone. We want to see that physical run, and like I said, I think even though the coach left there, I think they're going to do something similar in the fit. So we really wanted to see something like that. And like I said, kind of scheduled Clarksville the same way because we wanted to see a physical type run to get us prepared for our conference. And then you look at Charleston, of course, they've been state champions and, of recent years, and, they're more of a spread. So, kind of a mixture of everything with those two, but really wanted to focus on trying to see a run-heavy team that, even if they're running out of the gun, we wanted to see that style.
Your home road splits on conference?
On conference, not really.
Not really.
I mean,
you just got to play. Right?
Yeah, it's just what it is, man. You just prepare, and like I said, whatever it is, and we'll worry about that when we get to it. Like I said, I know right off the bat we've got to go to Heber. We've got Charleston at home, and I think we're on the road to Clarksville. I think. Okay. I hadn't looked at it that close. I just know who we're playing for the most part.
Well, I'm going to leave you with the final question here. It will be a successful season at Pottsville
if at the end of the year I can say our line play was really more solid than I thought we were going to be.
So the question mark is the line play. You feel good about your skill guys. You feel good about your returning players.
Absolutely. That
sort of thing. But that line is the question mark.
We definitely have some questions up front. And again, I think we've got the guys that can do it. And like I said, that's what I love about summer. We just finished up spring ball, so we're on the negative thought process right now because we're sitting there breaking down film. We're like, hey, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't do that. And like I said, that goes back to looking at all those situations. So again, that is going to determine how good we are. Is how we are up front.
All right, Coach Brian Russ joining me here on the Hometown Sports Arkansas Football Preview, brought to you by the Arkansas Sports Network. Coach, I appreciate you joining me here.
Yes,
you can catch more things right here on YouTube and Facebook. Just be on the lookout, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks again for joining us on the Arkansas Sports Network's Hometown Sports Football Preview. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Arkansas Sports Network on YouTube to catch more previews and all the latest updates on your favorite teams.